In the 1800s, very little was known about the effects of drugs on people. There were also very few restrictions, so people could concoct virtually anything they wanted and sell it to the American public. Drugs were available everywhere: stores, mail order catalogs, traveling vendors, and peddlers. In the 1890s, a German firm marketed a recently discovered drug that would sell as a cough suppressant. The firm called it heroin. Other drugs and compounds that often contained heroin or cocaine were advertised and promoted as cures for things from ingrown toenails to cancer. Medications were sold that guaranteed sex rejuvenation, new hair for bald people, breast enhancements, and arthritis. These are some examples, but there are even more. The most well-known soft drink, Coca-Cola, contained cocaine. It wasn't replaced with caffeine until 1906. The first law enacted was in San Francisco in 1875. It was an anti-opium smoking ordinance due to the opium problems there. It was years later before the horrible addiction of heroin was realized. In 1906, the Federal Pure and Drug Act was enacted from the rising concerns of heroin addiction. Then in 1914, the Federal Harrison Narcotics Act was passed. This act, the FDA required anyone who markets or sells a drug in the U.S. to show that the drug or medications is not harmful to human beings and that it will do what the advertisement says it does. With the use of drugs in everyday products, President William Howard Taft said, "The misuse of cocaine is undoubtedly an American habit, the most threatening of the drug habits that has ever appeared in this country." The Uniform Controlled Substances Act was enacted by the federal government and all states in 1970. It was approved by the National Conference of Commissioners. The Act's purpose was to achieve uniformity between the laws of states and those of the federal government. It was designed to complement the new federal narcotic and dangerous drug legislation. It allows federal and state laws to enable government at all levels to more effectively control the drug abuse problems.
Possession of a controlled substance, which is the most common drug charge. It must be proved to sustain for arrest and conviction. Possession law is defined to include a mens rea requirement. The person must knowingly or intentionally possess the controlled substance. Uniformly held that if a person knows he or she is in possession of some kind of controlled substance, there is no need to prove the knowing of exact nature and kind of drug possessed. Going on with possession, there are two types of possession. Actual possession, which is possession on the person of the defendant or within an area of their immediate control and reach. This can occur in a vehicle that holds substance under a seat or in the glove compartment that is owned or driven by the defendant. Another example is constructive possession. This occurs when drugs are in a place accessible and controlled by the accused, which is in a home, car trunk, or business of the accused. This must suggest a strong inference of possession that could be drawn by a judge or jury.
It is a felony to manufacture or intent to manufacture a controlled substance. It is also illegal to be in possession of a controlled substance or be in possession with an intent to sell or distribute a controlled substance, and even a counterfeit substance. Acquiring or obtaining possession of a controlled substance by misrepresentation, fraud, forgery, or deception is also a felony charge.
Next topic is drug laws. which is federal authority, resides with the Attorney General. Federal agencies like DEA, Drug Enforcement Agency, enforce federally controlled substances laws in all states and territories, which majority of drug crimes known to the U.S. law enforcement are handled on a state level. The DEA has divided these substances into 5 categories called schedules, based on each drug's potential for abuse, safety, addictive potential, and whether or not it has a medical use behind it. These 5 schedules of controlled substances start with Schedule 1, which substances are defined by the federal government as drugs with no currently accepted medical use and high potential for abuse. Dangers of them all. Severe psychological and physical dependence. These drugs are like heroin, lysergic acid diethylamide, LSD, marijuana, ecstasy, and peyote. Schedule 2, which is a high potential for abuse, less abuse potential than Schedule 1, but still as dangerous. It is potentially leading to severe psychological and physical dependence, which is also considered dangerous towards the body. These drugs are cocaine, methadone, methamphetamine, oxycontin, fentanyl, and Adderall/Ritalin. Schedule 3, which is moderate to low potential for physical and physiological dependence. Drug abuse potential is less than Schedule 1 and 2, but it's more than Schedule 4. These examples of drugs are ketamine, products with less than 90 milligrams of codeine in them, testosterone, and anabolic steroids. Schedule 4, which is the low potential for abuse and low risk of dependence. These are examples like Xanax, Soma, Valium, and Ambien. And last but not least is Schedule 5, which is lower potential for abuse than Schedule 4. This is like Robitussin and Modafinil. Each of these scheduled drugs has a sentencing behind it if caught. Schedule 1 is 5 to 40 years with up to $2 million in fines. Schedule 2 is a max of 20 years, up to $1 million in fines. Schedule 3 is 10 years with $500,000 in fines. Schedule 4 is a max of 5 years with $250,000 fines. And Schedule 5 is no more than 1 year with $100,000 fines. Next, we go to our supply reduction. This took place because of the drug use in the U.S. The U.S. began shifting state drug control policies towards a more comprehensive approach. The approach focuses on prevention, treatment, and enforcement. Supply reduction is a practice used to restrict and reduce availability of illicit drugs. And next we come to demand reduction. This also relates to the prevention and treatment programs. Drug education and prevention programs are intended to discourage people from becoming drug addicts, like example is DARE project. Drug treatment and secondary programs are designed to help recovering addicts in their situation.
There are 3 different users of illegal drugs. The first is situational drug abusers. These people use illegal drugs for specific purposes. For example, some may use weed to calm their stress and/or to relax their body. Others may use drugs to stay awake if they have a late night shift that they have to work. The next users of illegal drugs are drug addicts. These people are physically and psychologically dependent on drugs. They feel like they can't perform a daily without drug support. The main people who start getting addicted to drugs are the people who are in pain. They start taking painkillers to ease the pain and at times can feel like they can't go an hour or even 30 minutes without popping a pill in their mouth. The last users of illegal drugs are party or weekend users. These users are pretty much self-explanatory. They use drugs for the kicks or just for the experience. For example, people mainly use drugs when they go to raves, nightclubs, or even just a friend's party to have fun. So there are 3 different kinds of drug treatments. The first one is ambulatory care. It is a treatment that refers to medical services that are performed on an outpatient basis without admission to a hospital or other facilities. This includes the diagnosis, observation, consultation, intervention, treatment, and rehabilitation services. Ambulatory care is provided in settings such as dialysis clinics, outpatient surgical centers, hospital outpatient departments, and also the offices of physicians and other health professionals. This makes up for 70% of the people who are going to drug treatment. The residential type detox facilities are a separate step in the treatment process. It's not considered a treatment on its own, but it is a step to take before entering a treatment program. The purpose of detox is to remove the substance and toxins from your body when you've decided you're ready to stop using. Typically, the detox process helps you to safely and comfortably move past the acute withdrawal symptoms that come from abruptly stopping a substance. If you are going off substances or alcohol, dangerous symptoms tend to present themselves. This includes a quickened heartbeat and seizures. This is why detox with meds and supervision is recommended for addiction. While some people won't need detox before entering a treatment, for others, it's essential. So there are different kinds of referrals of treatments. The first one is to voluntarily go into a treatment program by yourself to get better for you or for your family. When you are addicted to drugs, it changes the way that your brain thinks and the way you behave. It can change the relationships that you have with people that you care about a lot. So, usually, your family is the best motivation for you to go in by yourself to change your habits, especially if they're bad ones that change the way you think, change the way you act, and just change the way that you've never been before. The next referral is pretty obvious. It's when you get in trouble for using drugs or even having possession of drugs. The criminal justice program will require you to go to these programs to get yourself better for yourself and for the community. They want to protect people, and they also want to protect yourself from harming you or from harming others around you. The last referral of treatment is provided by health providers, which can be your doctor or any professional medical person that wants to help you get better and help you get off the drugs and help you stop being addicted. When people enter treatment programs, everybody is different, but a typical stay in a rehab facility only lasts 30 days. Some rehabs offer longer stays, up to 60 to 90 days, but even that length of time might not be enough to give someone with a long history of substance abuse full support. For these users, a treatment that lasts 6 months or longer may be the best option for full recovery. In 2015, the drug control budget was released by the National Drug Control Policy. The budget states that 60% of all spending was dedicated to supply reduction, 40% was dedicated towards domestic law enforcement. From 2000 to 2010, Americans spent roughly $1 trillion on illegal substances. That's about $100 billion per year. Most of those people don't have a way of financing their habits. This leads them into committing crimes to get their next fix. The DEA estimates that $18 billion to $39 billion worth of illegal drugs are smuggled across the border each year.
The information provided for this video was found in the Gale Encyclopedia of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Illicit Drugs, the Encyclopedia of Drug Policy, and Chapter 16 of our Criminal Law textbook. For additional resources, please visit the McGovern Library website.